Hello Magic fans, I'm Beef and welcome back to another Historic Brawl gameplay video, this time featuring a Kellan the Kid deck. Kellan the Kid is a 3 mana 3/3 in green, white and blue, or Bant. It has a flying and lifelink, and it has whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you may cast a permanent spell with equal or less mana value from your hand without paying its mana cost. If you don't, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So potentially generates a lot of value by getting free cards or lands if you don't have those cards or don't want to play anything. And for those of you who watched my Aurlock deck last week, you'll see there's a large similarity between these decks, as they essentially do the same thing. They are looking to get value from cards outside your hand, and in fact we have Aurlock in this deck. And for those who haven't seen it, I will put a link. I'll put a card to that video here and on the end screen. So as always, we split our deck up into various sections. First one is ramp, so pretty basic stuff. Avacyn Pilgrim taps for a white, Halfling taps for any, or if used to cast a legendary spell and it can't be countered, or colorless. Green, Explore lets you draw a card and play an additional land. Paradise Druid, any colour and has hexproof. Catilda gives all human creatures, including which Kellan is one, and so is Catilda, the ability to tap to add one. I've included Aurlock in the ramp section as it does decrease the cost to cast various things. So that's where you can get the value. Growth Spiral, like Explore, you draw a card and put an additional land onto the battlefield, but it is an instant. Arcane Signet, tap for any colour. Cultivate. Search up 2 basic lands, put 1 into play tapped, 1 into your hand. Uro, I've put in the ramp section. It's a 3 mana 6/6, but you sacrifice it unless it escaped. And when it ETBs or attacks, you gain 3 life and draw a card. Then you may play a land from your hand onto the battlefield. And it's escape for 2 green, 2 blue, and exile 5 other cards from your graveyard. And then Invasion of Zendikar, it's a battle, comes down, search for 2 basic land cards, put in the battlefield tapped. Next up we have removal, and we don't have much removal in this deck. Swords to Plowshares, one of the most powerful. Exile target creature, its controllers gain life equal to its power. Lauren of the Third Path, I've included it in removal, as when ETB you can construct a 1 target artifact or enchantment, and then you can tap her to cause you and your opponent to draw a card. Force of Vigor can destroy up to 2 artifacts or enchantments, and if it's not your turn, you may exile a green card from your hand rather than pay its mana cost. So a free way to destroy artifacts and enchantment is really powerful. Then we have Fractured Identity, which is also really powerful. It's 5 mana, which is quite expensive, but it exiles any target non-land permanent, and then you create a copy of that. So you can get rid of their commander and create a copy, or one of their artifacts or enchantments, or their best creature. And then River's Rebuke, which was really the star of the show in the Aurlock deck, was we just got for our deck to find this, and then we can return all non-land target permanents, all non-land permanents target player controls to their owner's hand, to basically bounce everything our opponent has, and then we can get in for lethal usually, or it causes a scoop. We do have a couple of counter spells in Wash Away. I don't think you play a blue commander deck without Wash Away in it, because it does counter your opponent's commander for 1 blue mana. And then saw it coming, you can foretell as well, which is relevant to this deck. Foretell it for 2, and then play it on a future turn for 1 and a blue, and it counters any spell. Next up, we have ways to cast spells from the top of our library, which will trigger Kellan. So the Reality Chip, 0/4 creature, but if it's attached to another creature as an equipment, you can play lands and cast spells from the top of a library. Very, very powerful. Fibble Flip, Lost on the Range, lets us plot cards from the top of our library, and the plot cost is equal to its mana cost. So in future turns, we'll be able to cast those for free. Augur of Autumn, we can play lands from the top of our library. Very powerful. But as long as we have Coven, which means we have 3 or more creatures with different powers, we can play creatures from the top of our library as well. Elven Chorus also allows us to cast creatures from the top of our library, and it gives all creatures we control tap to add 1 mana of any colour. Oracle of Maul Dire, we can play lands from the top of our library and play an additional land each turn, so a great way to ramp. Vizier lets us cast creature spells from the top of the library, and we can spend mana of any type to cast creature spells, which can be relevant in a free colour deck. Make Your Own Luck, we look at the top 3 of our library, exile a non-land card, it becomes plotted, put the rest into hand. This is a great way to maybe plot a one with the multiverse or a Great Henge or one of our bigger spells. And because we put the other 2 cards into a hand, it's essentially draw 3, play one of them for free on a future turn. And then one with a multiverse, 8 mana, may look at the top of the library of any time. We can play lands and cast spells on top of the library, and then once during our turns, we can cast a spell from a hand or our top of the library without paying its mana cost. Very, very powerful, great way to trigger Kellan, essentially for free. And next up, we have all the other ways to play cards from somewhere else apart from a hand. So these are basically adventure cards or plot cards. So Giant Killer, its adventure side can destroy a creature of power 4 or greater, and its creature side it's a 1/2, and you can pay 2 to tap target creature and tap it itself. Dust Animus is a very powerful card. It's a 2 mana 2/3 with flying and plot for 2. But if you control 5 or more untapped lands, Dust Animus ETBs with 2+1/+1 counters and lifelink. So essentially, if you plot this on turn 2 and play on say turn 4 or 5, which you can easily have 5 untapped lands due to ramp, you suddenly got a 4/5 flying lifelink, which is really hard to get through. Wooden Acolyte, you don't really see it much in decks because you can pay 1 to put target permanent card from your grave on top of your library. Great way to get back removed creatures. In one of the gameplays, I did do a massive punt. Kellan got removed, and I sent it to the graveyard because I was going to put it back in on top of my library with this, but turns out they actually exiled Kellan, and I didn't realise, so it got exiled permanently. Don't do that. And when the Acolyte ETBs, you draw a card, bit of extra value. Brazen Borer, very powerful, 2 mana to return target permanent and opponent controls, non-land permanent, so great way to bounce a creature. And then the Borer side has flash and flying, but you can only block creatures with flying. Lovestruck Beast, again, another powerful one. 1 green to create a 1/1, and then 3 to create a 5/5, which can't attack unless you control a 1/1. So obviously synergy between them, but it's also a great blocker. Outcaster Trailblazer, plot for 3, when ETB you add 1 mana of any colour, and if another creature of power 4 or greater ETBs under your control, you draw a card. Rosethorn Acolyte, another card you don't really see in most Commander decks, but you can pay 1 green to add 1 mana of any colour, so it's a filter, and I often, if it's in my side hand, I'll just play this on turn 1 just to get it exiled, and then its creature side taps to add 1 mana of any colour. It does cost 3, which is expensive for a mana dork, but obviously it triggers Kellan, and if you've got something like Doc Aurlock in play, it will reduce that down to 1. Kellan joins up. When it ETBs, you exile a non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your hand. It becomes plotted. A great way to trigger Kellan on a future turn. And then whenever a legendary creature ETBs under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you do control. Behold the Multiverse, foretell it for 2, cast it for 2, scry 2, then draw 2 cards, or you can cast it for 4. Very powerful. Another Kellan, adventure side, investigate, and you pay an additional land, so a great way to ramp. And then it has fire and vigilance, and whenever it attacks, you can destroy a target artifact, which is great to remove opposing troublesome artifacts. However, if you controlled that permanent, you draw a card. So if you destroy, for example, your own clue you investigated to create, you do draw a card, which is what a clue does anyway, so it's a great way to draw from a clue without paying any mana. Next, Virtue of Loyalty. 2 mana to create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. It's an instant as well, so you can do it at the end of opponent's turn. And then 5 mana at the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and tap those creatures. Basically, it's a great way to grow your board and give them pseudo vigilance. Essentially, it's also one of our more expensive cards we can play out from elsewhere. So it's a great way to trigger Kellan and get some bigger spells onto the battlefield for free. Railroad Brawler, just a great card. Plot for 4, has reach and trample. It's a 5/5. And whenever another creature ETBs, you put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is its power. So basically, it doubles their power and then their toughness. Stormkilled Vanguard, 2 to destroy a target artifact or enchantment, and then a big 6/7 body, which can't be blocked by creatures of power 2 or less. Storm the Festival, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put 2 of those onto the battle. 2 permanent cards with mana value 5 or less onto the battlefield, and also has flashback for 10. And obviously, flashback, counts as casting it from somewhere else. All one's Epiphany, 7 mana, take an extra turn, or you can foretell it for 7. Well, rotate it for 2, cast it later for 7, and if you do, you get 2 1/1 blue bird creature tokens. And Beastalk Giant, Fertile Footsteps is a bit of ramp, basically land onto the battlefield, and then Beastalk Giant itself has power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control. We do have a bit of a land synergy as well with Tireless Provisioner, Tireless Tracker, and Tatiova. They all have landfall. Provisioner, you can create a food or treasure token. Usually treasure token. Tireless Tracker, you create a clue token, and then whenever you sacrifice a clue, you put a counter on the tracker. And Tatiova, whenever land and ETBs, you gain a life and draw a card. That is very, very powerful, especially with the fetch lands we have. And finally, we have some miscellaneous good stuff. Vega is actually one of the more powerful cards in our deck. So whenever we cast a spell anywhere other than a hand, such as same thing as Kellan, we draw a card, and obviously this triggers from just casting our commander. So not only can we get value from Kellan, we can get value from Vega as well. Guardian Project, great card draw for green. Whenever a non-token creature ETBs, if it doesn't have the same name or another creature you control or creature in a graveyard, you draw a card. And because it's commander, singleton, you're not going to have any other creatures with the same name, so you'll draw a card of everything you play. Rashmi, whenever you cast your first spell each turn, reveal the top card of your library. You may cast it without paying its mana cost if it's a spell with lesser mana value. If you don't, put it into your hand. So yeah, you draw the card anyway, and then if it does have lesser mana value, you can play it, which means Kellan will trigger as well. Tamiyo, a great card draw engine. You can choose up to 2 creatures until the next turn. Whenever either of those creatures deal combat damage, you draw a card. Doesn't have to be your creatures. You can cast it on your opposing creatures if you think they're going to swing in, such as at Tamiyo. You can get a couple of cards from it. And the -2, tap up to 2 target non-land permanents. They don't untap during their controller's next untap step. A great way to get blockers out of the way or tap troublesome artifacts. You can do this twice, and because they don't untap, it's essentially, you know, they're out of the action for a couple of turns. And -7, draw 3 cards. You get an emblem with you may cast spells from your hand without paying the mana cost. It's unlikely to get there. Tamiyo is quite a big target for your opponents to take out. And then Jace, +1, Sky 1, draw a card, very good. -2, bounce a creature to its owner's hand. And then -8, you get an out emblem. Whenever an opponent casts a first spell, each turn counter that spell. Again, Jace is a very big target for your opponent to try and take out. Time Warp, 5 mana, take an extra turn. Very, very powerful. Vivian, +1, or you can play creatures on the top of your library. +1 to create a 3/3 green beast creature token. Put your choice of a vigilance, reach, or trample counter on it. This is great with Railway Brawler because they're essentially 6/6, and 6/6s with reach or trample are just incredibly powerful. And you do have a -2 whenever you cast your next creature spell this turn. Search the library for creature card with lesser mana value, put onto the battlefield, then shuffle. I haven't really used that because, but it can be powerful if you're playing a bigger creature, such as Silverback Elder, 5 mana for 5/7. Whenever you cast a creature spell, cast not creature ETBs, you can choose to destroy a target artifact or enchantment. Look at the top 5, put a land onto the battlefield tapped, or gain full life. This is one of my favourite cards to play in Brawl in green because you just get so much value from it. You can get lands if you need it. You can destroy troublesome artifacts or enchantments, or if you're behind, you can just gain life. And Mirari's Wake is probably my favourite card of all time. I had a great deck in Magic the Gathering Online back in the early 2000s when that first came out, which utilised it. But it's a 5 mana enchantment. Creature you control get +1/+1. Great way to pump all your board. And then whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type that land produced. So essentially doubles your mana, which is just obviously insanely powerful. Tulane, 5 mana, 2/4 with vigilance. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. That's always powerful. Then you may put a land card from your hand on the battlefield. Great way to ramp. And then you can pay 3 and tap it to return target creature you control its owner's hand to maybe fizzle removal or to read by ETBs. Jamil, the Inner Sun, spells you control can't be countered. That's pretty good. And at the beginning of your end step, you discover 5, which means you exile cards on top of your library until you exile a non-land card with mana 5 or less. You can cast it without paying its mana cost, and that would trigger Kellan. Or if you don't, you put it into your hand. This is better than Cascade. Cascade doesn't give you a chance to put it into your hand. And then finally, the Great Henge, 9 mana, but it is reduced by X, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So if you have, for example, Silverback Elder out with a power of 5, it will reduce it down to 4 mana. So you can tap to add 2 green and gain 2 life. Great way to stabilise and obviously ramp. And then whenever non-token creature and ETBs under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card. So it's all creatures. That's really powerful to pump everything else and just get through your deck and draw cards. Mana base is pretty standard. We have the Aganjo and Otuara and Boseiju to remove creatures, artifacts, enchantments, and Otuaras. A few basic lands, and then all the dual lands we can possibly get. Then we've got Command Tower, obviously, and Prismatic Vista, which just says pay 1 life, sacrifice it, and then search library for a basic land card. So that's the deck. Hope you all enjoy it. If you do, please remember to like and subscribe. And I will see you all in my gameplay. We're up against the Sovereign Okinec Ahau, so a kind of +1/+1 counter deck. It gets benefits if things have more higher power than the base power. We've got not a great mana base, but we can get out Arcane Signet and then maybe the dock, and hopefully we draw into other things. That's not a bad draw. They're going on the ramp route. I was going to say, looks like they didn't draw a land there, but they did. Get down the Arcane Signet. And we will just get this into exile. There's a commander. Not drawn an additional land, which is not great. Next turn, assuming Ken survives, we can get down the Acolyte and then put the dock into play from it. But yeah, drawing a land would be good. Yeah, that's not great. A land or some removal. Well, there is the land. We will play the reality chip. And then we'll get down the dock as well. We are going to take a big hit, but I will swing in and gain us some life back. They're putting Kahira into hand. That's okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to block. I'll block with the dock. This is just to get a creature onto the board, essentially, and as act as a blocker. Well, that's not too bad.
Diversity is our greatest strength.
We are in a bad way, basically. We have to chump with a few things. Oh, yeah, obviously that has reach. Whoops. Yeah, that's game over for us. They went off really quickly, and having that double striker and getting a counter on it messed us up massively. But anyway, let's move on. Up against a rat deck, so this is going to be a aggro deck. And this is... Oh, our mana's not great again. We're going to have to mulligan this. Yeah, this is okay. Guardian Project's always a good card to have because it'll be able to draw us a lot. Yep, I'm happy with keeping Jace for now. And we can grow Spiral at the end of their turn. Get down the wastes. Let's get down the Guardian Project. Let's get down our commander. Draw a card. We'll get down the... Don't have any permanents in the graveyard yet. Nope. We'll get down the Spiral's headquarters. I think we are going to have to block. Ken having lifelink. It's quite good there. Wow. I think we're just dead. Yeah, we just... They didn't have to play their commander, just play out all the rat colonies. So yeah, let's move on. We're up against Admiral Brass. Is it a mill deck? Yeah. Well, this isn't great. We seem to have Force of Vigor in all of our opening hands. This is better. We can get down Razor Verge Thicket, then Avicen's Pilgrim. River's Rebuke is always good to have as well. We can get down... well, River's Rebuke's gone then. We'll get down Vega the Watcher. That means when we get down a commander, we'll draw a card. Swinging with Vega. And we will just foretell, behold the multiverse, and probably draw at the end of their turn. And we'll draw a card as well from Vega. Don't really need more land, or Land of Werewolves is good because it means if our commander gets removed again. Play this on white. And we'll plot the Animus. And then keep that back. Well, that's not great. But we are about to get down a 5/5 lifelinker. We do have 5 or more untapped lands. We will play out Yavimaya Coast. And we can channel Otawara. Which I probably will do. Maybe just whack. So they can't double their commander with Spark Double. They're probably just going to take Cartsail Freeboat. Yeah. Interesting to see what they take. Cultivate, maybe? Oh, Force of Vigor. Right, let's get Chilane down. Draw a card from Vega, and we can ramp. And we'll put this on blue. Fractured Identity was a good draw. As we can remove something and get a copy of it. That's fine. That was an odd choice. Yeah. Wasn't sure what we would take. Maybe it's one of their freebooters. But it was a bit of a big swing. So I think the opponent saw the writing on the wall. I'm not sure why I attacked with their 3-2 when we had a 4-5 life linker on, but oh well. Good result. Let's move on. All up against Obeka. It's a new card that when it gets caught in combat damage, you gain a number of extra upkeeps equal to that damage. So they're going to have things that trigger on upkeep. I'll keep this. We can ramp with Explore and then hopefully get through our deck with Reality Chip. And if they play a Mana Rock or something, we can destroy it with Lauren. They're thinking about whether to take a mulligan or not. Yeah, let's keep this. We'll get down Temple Gardens. Don't need to shock it in. Do need to draw some more lands. Explore and Uro are only really worth it if you have extra lands in hand to put in. And Tatiova is always a good draw as well. Well, at least we can destroy that with Lauren and that. We will get a breeding pool. I'd really like to draw a land. That is not a land. But we can get down Lauren and destroy the Fable. Still no land. Well, there is a land, so let's get down the Provisioner. And we'll create a treasure token. And then we will get down the Reality Chip. River's Rebuke would be really, really good around about now. This is getting kind of ridiculous. Wow. Well, at least we can use this to draw a card.
Every story is an opportunity for new data. Here, have some of my notes.
We've just completely bricked, and yeah, I think this is game over. You know, we didn't draw the lands, meaning we couldn't get any of our cards out in our hand. You know, only having 4 land all game was ridiculous. But let's move on. Up against a Korvold deck, so a sacrifice deck. We have an okay hand. We can plot Dust Animus and exile the Acolyte. So when we play Kellan, we can get some value from it. And we go first as well, which is always good. Play this on green. And I will just... doesn't really matter. Elven Chorus is a good draw. You know what? I'm just going to destroy the food. It stops them ramping. It means they get less value from Korvold. Assert dominance by honking. Let's that, and we'll get a blue so we can play Kellan when we need to. Which I think I will. Next turn we can plot the Brawler. I am fine with ramping. Let's get another forest. So we'll plot the Brawler and get down the Pilgrim. So next turn, assuming things survive, which it doesn't, that's a bit annoying. I'm going to play that. We won't get value from Kellan, but I think having Kellan enter as a 6/6, seeing as he does have lifelink, the land's a good draw. And we'll put in the chorus. And then I will swing in with Kellan. Gain a lot of life. And next turn we can play the Acolyte, plot the Animus, ramp a bit, maybe with Beanstalk Giant. just getting a basic land card. Surprised they didn't get like a removal spell or something. That could be an issue, but let's play out let's play out this, because then we can just play out Augur. Let's ramp. And let's put in forest. And let's plot. I'm fine if they want to block. I assume they'd block the Kellan. Fair enough. We're about to get pinged for quite a lot. Let's play the Animus. And we'll play the Oracle. I'm not that fussed about that. It's a 3-1. That's... okay, that annoyed me, but... Let's get down the Elderback. Well, next turn we can take another turn. Mirari's Wake up next. Well, let's see what they do. And how much do we have? Not enough. Alright, well, let's time warp. Oh, we can still play it. Fair enough. We will gain 4. We'll get down Mirari's Wake. Let's gain 4. Let's swing with some beefy creatures. They're going to have to... Oh, they're not going to jump. And let's gain 4 again. I'm quite happy having the Inner Sun on top. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Braids is alright, we don't have to sacrifice anything. And yeah, we were just too far ahead then. A good result in a bit of a grindy game. Let's move on. Up against a Quintorius Kand, so maybe a Discover based deck. This is okay, I think. We can ramp with Pilgrim and then play the adventure side of Kellan. And build up to one with the multiverse. They did mulligan to 6. Dust Animus is a good draw as well. We'll be able to plot that at some point. And play the island. And let's plot the Animus now. We'll get down the Tameo.
I would like to test a new hypothesis with you. Study yields enlightenment.
Drawing a card's good. Wow, that's not great. So I need 4 mana for that. Alright. Don't think we... Okay, let's keep it because of one with the multiverse. We will keep up Otawara. Hopefully they play... This is annoying. Because he can take out Tameo.
I have become too involved with my work.
Well, let's get down the Animus. Because that can block the War Leader. We will get a... Do we have 5. Do we need 6 for anything? Yeah, sure. Let's in the breeding pool. And let's destroy Mindstone. And let's get down a bigger Kellan. Alright, I'm surprised they took that one. We'll play out Kellan. I'm going to draw, see if we hit a land drop. People keep on scooping, and I'm not entirely sure why. They weren't exactly in a bad place. They could replay Italy next turn, which at a 6/6 and has a really good attack trigger will be hard for us to deal with. Especially with Aurelia. You know, you can get, even though we'll be able to kill Aurelia, she'll double trigger Italy. So I'm not sure what they were thinking there, but you know, they even had a Doomscar to wipe the entire board, and you know, so, but good result for us. Let's move on. Up against a Doc Aurlock deck, which is what we played last week, so it will be a very similar deck list to this one. No ramp, that's bad. but we can get some value from Behold the Multiverse. So what I'll do is Lush Portico into Botanical Sanctum, Behold the Foretell, Behold the Multiverse, and then when we play Kellan and then play Behold, and let's see what we survived into. Sure, that's pretty good. Would have rather had it last turn, but next turn they'll be able to get that down. Oh no, they won't, sorry. They discarded Tumbleweed Rising and Ferocious Werefox. Ramping with Beanstalk Giant. So we will play our Plains, play out Kellan. Can use a giant killer to kill the Beanstalk Giant or the Tempest Heart if it gets a counter on it, or, you know, Railway Brawler if they manage to get that out. So what we'll do is play the Foothills, crack it immediately, and we will get our Breeding Pool untapped. Can we? No, we can't. Yeah, mana's a bit irritating, actually. Well, let's play that, and then we can Behold on their turn. Which, because it's a 4-mana card, we should be able to get down Rashmi. Well, I'm tempted to get down Elvish Mystic. Yeah, just for ramp. Guardian Project and Otawara I'm happy with. And Kellan joins up. Sure. We'll plot the rarity chip. And then we will keep up Giant Killer and or Otawara. Could Giant Killer the branch? Yeah, I'm fine taking 3. They have 7 mana. I'm not sure what... Like, why wouldn't they spend it on the Beanstalk Giant unless they kept up a counterspell? They must have kept up a counterspell. Well, let's get down Rashmi. Wow, okay. Alright, we're going to take a big hit from the Tempest Heart. They're playing this like a control deck, which I'm not particularly happy about. That's good for next turn. Oh, dearie me. I hate that card with an absolute passion. It is so unfair, essentially. Unless you can remove it, the turn you play it, they play it, and they don't have any mana up. They're also taking a long time to think about this. They can play 3 cards and they've got 6 mana. It's not complicated. Play cards, remove things, swing in. You know, they've got lethal. It's not difficult. Yeah, why did that take them so long? You know, it's not complicated. Just play your cards, especially with Hullbreaker Horror. Play cards, remove things, win, you know. Let's move on. Up against Ziatora, the Incinerator. Well, we have ramp. We obviously need more land. But then when we do, Tireless Provisioner can start creating treasure tokens. Yeah, so let's give it a go. We'll get a Breeding Pool and shock it in. They're ramping themselves. Let's foretell and then get down the Pilgrim. A land drop would be really good. That is a land drop. And we can get down the Tamio. Land and swords. Sure. Actually, you know what? I'm going to deny their ramp.
Patience fosters wisdom.
Next turn we can get down a Provisioner. Castle. Let's get down the Provisioner. Get down the castle, create a treasure token. Then what we can do is remove and then swing in.
New data is always welcome.
Warland's always good with the Provisioner, and then next turn we can Storm. That's fine. Let's get down the Dreamroot Cascade, create a treasure. See what we hit. Jace and Augur.
We'll make this look easy.
Let's just bounce Ziatora.
Think fast.
Play the Halfling. And then draw two. I'm quite happy with drawing one with the multiverse next turn. That's an issue. Yeah, fine. I can get it back with the Acolyte. So let us play the let's play the Delta. So we get 2 triggers. And let's get Hello Fountain. By Vorinclex. Yep.
I think I know what.
Yeah, let's get down the thicket. Oh, are they roping? Because I destroyed their Boron Klex? Or maybe not. We can fractured identity their Ziatora. Yeah, that's fine. I'll block that.
No.
Oh, well, we just River's Rebuke. Now this is, I imagine, where they scoop. Yep, there we go. And yeah, we could even then flashback, storm the festival, get a Mirara's Wake and something else hopefully, and then yeah, go on from there. Good result. Let's move on. We're up against Sidisi deck, which is a mill zombie deck. I'm gonna have to mulligan this. We don't have any ramp apart from turn 3 fertile footsteps. Yeah, we don't have anything in our hand that's 3 or less to plot with. Kellan joins up. This is better. Mara's Wake is a great way to ramp as well. So turn 1, Lana White Elves. Turn 2, we can get down Kellan if we need to. Although made us ramp with Beanstalk Giant. Actually, we can't get down Kellan. We haven't got any blue mana. We will search that up with Beanstalk Giant. Oh, there is blue mana. But turn 3, Mirara's Wake will be tough to beat. They got some ramp of their own. And next turn we should be able to get down Kellan and Guardian Project. But not in that order. Great Henge is also a great card to have, but we'll get down the Guardian Project and Kellan so we can draw off it. Let's just bounce the token. And Kellan is a good blocker against a DC, being a 4/4 now with Mirara's Wake. And next turn we can get down the Henge and the Beanstalk Giant. So we'll play down the Evermire Coast, get down the Henge. Draw a lot of cards from Great Henge. And then we can't play the Giant Killer side, chop down. So let's just get down the Orgrimmar. And then I will keep Kellan back. And next turn we can Time Warp. Take an extra turn. Kill the Lurgoyf. Yeah, so let's get down Forest. I imagine this might cause a scoop, or not. And we can Giant Killer. Destroy most of our deck. Let's get down the Pilgrim. And then swinging with Kellan and Beanstalk Giant. We'll end the turn and we discard 5 cards, so we'll get rid of a lot of these lands. So what we'll do, play the dock. And we will play out Tamiyo.
The moon looks intriguing tonight. I have many scrolls of data to share.
And then play the Virtue. Let's go to the Conduit of Worlds. we'll swim with Kellan, the Giant, Vega, and the Giant Killer. We need to discard a lot of cards again. Oh no, they're in my graveyard. So we will get rid of a Meticulous Archive and a Forest. Where's Bazoja gone? There we go. Get rid of their Altar of Blood. Yep, that did it. I'm not sure why he didn't scoop at Time Warp, but yeah, taking out the Altar of Blood was more than enough. And you can see, yeah, we absolutely had the value there. Let's move on. Hello Magic fans and welcome back to the wrap up. So we played this deck 18 times, which is a lot more than I usually play, but I did actually enjoy it. But we only had a 50% win rate. And as you can see, interestingly, out of those 18 times, we had 12 of them were on the draw, which suggests maybe it's not entirely random. But yeah, that's a lot more on the draw. What I think is interesting about this deck is it's basically the big brother to Doc Aurlock, but it's what it's meant to be. But I actually found the Doc Aurlock deck more powerful, and I think one of the reasons for that is because Doc reduces the costs to plot cards and to play cards from exile or anywhere else apart from your hand. It's an immediate value. You know, you can play it and then in the same turn plot a card for 1 or 2, such as Railway Brawler. You could easily, if you play turn 1 Mana Doc, turn 2 Doc, and then turn 3 you can plot Railway Brawler, then on turn 4 you get it out and start pumping your creatures. Or you know, there's a few plot cards which you could plot for 1 with Doc out, so you could turn 1 Mana Doc, turn 2 play Doc, and then plot something, turn 3 get it into play and start getting that value. So all you really need is a plot card in your hand, or a card to play from exile, or play from elsewhere out of your hand. For Kellan, you still need things to be plotted, but you don't get a reduced mana cost, or you need to be able to cast things from other places. But then you also need a card in your hand with equal or lesser mana value, and or a land in your hand, which doesn't always happen. There are a few games where I played something from an adventure card, and I didn't have anything in my hand that was equal or less. I didn't have any lands, so it's a bit like, oh, it doesn't really do anything. Yes, Kellan is a bigger threat, is a 3/3 and not a 2/3, and flying and lifelink are very two powerful keywords, and it's a great way to stabilize and get in for some damage. But I actually think it's weaker than the Doc deck, even though it's an extra color and it's in theory more powerful. Yes, you can play Doc in this deck, and I do, so you can essentially get the same value, but obviously in a 100-card deck, you can't guarantee that you're going to have the Doc. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I do enjoy playing it. There were a lot of games. One of the reasons we played 18 games is a lot of games which only lasted a couple of minutes. There were a few times where our opponents scooped, and for no particular reason, they just I think it was based on them having a bad opening hand or not drawing what they needed, so they scooped, as opposed to them looking at going, oh, they play Kellan, we're going to scoop, because it's not that powerful. That's why we played so many decks. And whereas on Doc, I think there are a couple of games which are over 25 minutes long. I think the longest game on this was 10 minutes, which is odd because they're essentially the same deck. They should be able to do the same thing. But as I said, Doc I think gets so much more value, which lets you stabilise and go out longer. So this is a good deck if you just want to get through games quickly, but with a 50% win rate, you know, you'll win half the time. So I did have a good time playing it, and I hope you all had a good time watching it. And if you do decide to play it, let me know how you get on in the comments. If you did enjoy, please remember to like and subscribe. It does wonders for the channel. But I will see you all in the next video. Thank you, goodbye.